Bryan Mills, a former Green Beret and CIA officer, has a daughter Kim who lives with her mother, his ex-wife Lenore, and her wealthy stepfather Stuart. Bryan attempts to build a relationship with his 17-year-old daughter. He gave her a karaoke machine for her 17th birthday because he knows she has wanted to be a professional singer since she was 5 years old. While Bryan takes a picture of Kim, her stepfather Stuart shows up with his expensive horse as a birthday present for Kim. Bryan has a pained expression on his face as Kim flees towards Stuart, leaving his present behind. On that night, Bryan was having a small barbecue party with his friends. One of them, Sam, asked him to join a one-night job overseeing security at a concert for pop star Shira on the following evening. Bryan asked Shira for advice on how to become a professional singer that night before the concert, realizing that his daughter aspired to be like her. During the show, Kim contacts Bryan and wants to meet for lunch. There's a shambles after the concert, and Bryan saves Shira from a knife-wielding attacker and heads to a car. Shira gives Bryan a card with 2 phone numbers on it in case his daughter Kim wishes to try out for a singing career as a way of repaying Bryan for saving her. The next day, Bryan sits at the restaurant, and Kim arrives with her mother Lenore. Kim is planning a vacation to Paris with her friend Amanda, but because Kim is under the age of 18, she requires permission from her father to leave the country. Bryan refuses, stating that the world is too dangerous for a 17-year-old girl to travel alone, which disappoints Kim and prompts her to leave. Lenore suggests that Bryan give Kim some space and simply sign the paper. Finally, Bryan grants permission with some conditions. Kim is required to avoid certain areas in Paris and call him every night before bed. When taking her daughter to the airport, Bryan learns that Kim lied. Kim and Amanda aren't only going to Paris, instead, they're planning to travel around Europe following the U2 concert. Upon arriving at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris, they meet a handsome young stranger named Peter who offers to share a taxi. Kim and Amanda go to Amanda's cousin's apartment, where Kim finds out that the cousins are in Spain. Peter knows where they are staying. He calls someone and tells them that he has a target, 2 American girls, 18 years old. Meanwhile, Bryan calls Kim several times, but there's no answer. He calls Lenore, and she convinces Bryan to stay calm. Bryan keeps calling until Kim finally answers. Bryan is worried and wants Kim to give every detailed information about her location. During the call, Kim sees men enter the apartment and abduct Amanda. Bryan records the conversation as quickly as possible and tells Kim to hide under the bed and listen to what he says. He wants Kim to put the phone down and shout out anything she sees about them. When she is dragged out from hiding, she yells a description of her abductor, following her father's instructions. Bryan hears someone breathing on the phone and tells the listener that he will not pursue the kidnappers if they release his daughter, but warns them that refusing to accept his offer will result in their deaths. The listener only replies, "Good luck," and terminates the call. Bryan rushes to Stuart's house to deliver the bad news that Kim has been kidnapped. He wants Stuart to get his plane ready to fly to Paris as soon as possible. At the same time, Sam, an old friend and former colleague of Bryan, informs him that the kidnappers are part of an Albanian sex trafficking ring and identifies the listener as mob boss Marko Hoxham based on previous history. Kim must be found within 96 hours, or she will likely be lost forever. Bryan flies to Paris and breaks into the apartment. He tries to recreate what happened there and notices Kim's broken phone. He takes the memory card, where he discovers Peter's reflection in a photo. Furthermore, he finds Peter at the airport trying to charm a female traveler. Bryan tries to apprehend him, but he flees. Peter jumps over a bridge and is killed by an oncoming truck. With his only lead dead, Bryan turns to an old contact, former French intelligence agent Jean-Claude Pitrel, who now has a desk job. Jean-Claude informs him of the local red light district where the Albanian prostitution ring operates, but warns him not to get involved. Bryan hires an Albanian English translator. When he arrives at Port de Clichy, he approaches one of the prostitutes and begins to annoy her until someone comes over and tells him to leave. Bryan agrees, but also installs an eavesdrop device so he can hear what they are talking about. They're speaking Albanian, and the translator is translating everything they say. Bryan hits a hint about a construction site. Bryan follows them only to discover that the location is a prostitution den. At night, Bryan searches a makeshift brothel in a construction yard and rescues a drugged young woman who is wearing Kim's denim jacket. After a gunfight and high-speed chase with the brothel's operators, Bryan takes the woman to a hotel where he improvises her detoxification. The next day, Jean-Claude calls and requests that Bryan leave France since he was causing too much chaos. That night, during the call, Jean quietly instructs his man to track Bryan's whereabouts, but Bryan is too clever for Jean to find. Meanwhile, the woman Bryan had saved earlier has awoken. Ryan questions her about how she obtained Kim's jacket and discovers another clue to the root apparatus. Bryan, posing as Deputy Director of Internal Security using Jean-Claude's name card, enters the house under the pretense of renegotiating the police protection rate. When he identifies Marco Hoxham, tricking him into saying, "Good luck," the meeting erupts into a fight, resulting in the deaths of several gangsters except Marco. After finding various heavily drugged girls and Amanda's body, Ryan tortures Marco with electricity. Marco reveals that virgins like Kim have high value in the black market and are quickly sold before identifying the buyer as crime syndicate leader Patrice St. Clair. Ryan then leaves Marco to die from continuous electrocution. Ryan visits Jean-Claude's apartment that evening. Having discovered Jean-Claude's corruption, Bryan wounds the latter's wife to coerce him into disclosing St. Clair's location before knocking him out. Ryan enters the party disguised as a police officer. Inside one of the rooms, he informs security that he is looking for St. Clair, but security informs him that his name is not on the list and that he cannot pass. Ryan is forced to knock out the security until he collapses. He disguises himself once more, this time as a waitress, and walks to one of the bidding chambers at the auction. Bryan forces Ollie, one of the bidders, to purchase Kim at any price. Someone smacks Bryan's head from behind as he exits the room, knocking him out. When St. Clair learns who he is, he orders his henchmen to kill him, but Bryan breaks loose and kills them all. St. Clair reveals that Kim was taken to a yacht owned by a sheik named Ramon. Before Bryan shoots him repeatedly, Bryan pursues the yacht and eliminates the bodyguards one by one, including Ollie, before he finds Ramon in his suite, where he is holding Kim at knife point. When Ramon attempts to negotiate, Bryan kills him with a headshot and saves Kim. Kim is overcome with emotion as she realizes her father has traveled such a long distance to save her. The next day, they return home to the United States. At the end of the movie, Bryan surprises Kim by taking her to visit Shira, as she wants to hear Kim's voice. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button,